Okay, so we're back with another guest room with my good friend Georgi. I'm not going to even try and pronounce his surname. And he's the CEO of Signalbase, and I'm going to hand it off to him.
All right. Well, welcome everyone, and I hope that this session today is actually going to throw a little bit more strategic thinking towards all of the go-to-market signal-based engines that you're designing here. I previously mentioned it to a few of the people in the room, but this is something that my previous agency easily charged 30 to 50K a month as a retainer for the whole implementation, and there was a lot of upscaling that was being in place. So promise you today we're going to have some very battle tested insights. And that being said, let me just start by sharing my screen because today we're going to talk about how to build a predictable signal based go to market engine. Beforehand, a little bit about myself. I actually stepped into the leadership shoes at the age of 19. So, Rahan, you're not so far behind, bro. And that being said, I worked in VC backed environments, in bootstrap environments. I also worked for venture capital itself. So, I do know how your investors or the investors that your clients are working with are thinking about growth. And that is something very different from how the average CEO would look into. Based on that one, last year, as I mentioned, I was a head of growth for this fractional growth collective called the Growth Syndicate. And my job outside of growing the brand was also to build a community for senior VPs of growth, etc., etc. So based on that one, I created 11 events, from which one of them was a full conference for 200 vetted attendees. I can share a link towards that a little bit later, but that pretty much enabled me to understand how do all of the go-to-market leaders within Europe think about designing their engines, etc., etc. And right now we are building a Signalbase, which is a API or real-time signal infrastructure that enables you to discover companies that have funding, acquisition, M&A, and job changes news behind it. There are some familiar faces that are using our data already, so I won't go into that direction. But let's just go straight up into what we have prepared for today. I do want to know, just to grasp a little bit who is in the audience, like what is a growth mate of yours, guys, that you have came across recently? Francesco, a big growth myth.
In terms of outreach, I mean, I'll just call out the basic one that I think we need to keep hammering home, and that is quantity. Just get your message out there, whatever it takes. Just get a list of people that are vaguely resembling maybe the profile that we're looking for, and just start hitting send, send, send. So that's something that I think as an industry, you could say, right, in go to market, we're doing better about education, but there's a lot of work still ahead.
Sick. So, well, my biggest growth take is actually, sorry, I kind of skipped into the next one, is that we are still trying to indeed target the same people at the same time. If we look into the into the picture here, we can see one familiar, beautiful face, and then another face in here.
Shocking.
And the major, like the the major difference between those guys, sorry, the major thing that they do have in common is both of them are 19. But if you start targeting them just by age, you miss out the bigger picture, which is the fact that the guy on the left actually exited to MyFitnessPal for 36 million just a few days ago. So that being said, his interests are definitely going to be different from what Rauhan would have, such as drinking beer. Although, if we try to look for this,
Obviously.
if we try to look for the similarities, though, what you might want to target both of them is Tinder account, most likely, right? So, although they are the same, they're very much different, and this should be the cornerstone of your go-to-market thinking, right? Because Jordan Crawford mentioned this. You map out your whole time, and then out of this, you need to look for the similarities, for the problems that people are looking for, right? the thing is, this fundamental go-to-market or marketing knowledge since 2010 or something, even before that. And it's kind of funny that it's being fragmented so much and people tend to forget about it, which leads to actually mistakes like this. And this is some messages that I have been personally receiving. To start on the left really quickly, there was someone who thought that I'm an agency owner just because I had the title founder in there. So there you go, he burned his credit, and as you can see, I responded, hey man, are we an outbound agency or not? And then on the right side, we have one vendor that everyone knows in here, and they literally shot me a message saying like, hey man, you can actually go after recently funded companies. And my response was pretty much, do you actually know what we do with Signalbase, because we have that as one of our core signals. Now, this is nothing new. I'm just skipping through it really quickly, but we all need to optimize for relevance, right? And relevance is nothing without timing, because everyone nowadays is eating the lunch of one another. So this is something that I got as a tip from the previous head of go-to-market for ZoomInfo. If your signals are not collected in a 2 hours time frame, the relevancy towards the particular pain point is getting less and less. So the probability for you to jump on a call with them is less and less accordingly, right? And this is actually a common thing that I see across all of my conversation that we did within our podcasts. As you can see, we spoke with Ilya from Hayreach, Frank. We spoke with the previous head of go-to-market for Common Room. I even spoke with Everett. And all of them mentioned that, okay, the signal is important, and the time for it, but you also, in order to get your message out there, you do need to keep your context for yourself, not by directly mentioning it. And here is one very good example of how not to do lead generation. If you say, hey, so you commented under this man's post, right? Like everyone knows that. So rather than going for accounts and purely saying, hey, congratulations on your funding, let's say, you do need to turn it a little bit differently. And the example that I gave when we spoke with our friends at Company Rich is exactly that. Imagine that you're going on a date and the person on the other side loves flowers. Are you going to talk about the flowers, or you're actually going to give them the flowers, right, in order to stand out? And this is the last educational quote unquote, not really, but this is like some of the basic things that I wanted to remind you guys about, because I see so many teams still running into those mistakes. There's a difference between signals and intent. Most of the time, the signals occur before the particular intent, and how I split the difference between those two key points is the fact that intent helps you to activate the account once they're inside of your own funnel, while signals are for you to pull them into your own funnel, right? Like it's two different things that should support the list building process, considering that one of them is having a bigger weight when it comes to buyer readiness, quote unquote. So okay, that was the evergreen stuff. Here is where it gets super, super interesting. Building a predictable growth engine previously was exactly what Francesco mentioned, right? Based on volume. So what we would normally do is that you go on LinkedIn, target everyone that is head of marketing, blast emails, and there you have it. So like it's a volume game, right? Sometimes it still is, but now the relevance gets 10 times more important, and the ability for you as a go-to-market leader to unify your sales and marketing team in order to prevent everyone from burning out. So on the left side, we have the system how I see it before June, and then we have the system which was exactly generated this 20 million company, like double or triple their revenue. So the system is the following. We started with the full TAM mapping, right? Then based on that one, you have a proper list of companies that you want to go into together with your sales and marketing team. You start pulling all of these accounts from LinkedIn or lead database. This was before Clay became big in Europe, by the way. Then from there, the SDRs did a lot of manual research and they do knock on the door. But what happened was that most of the time they wasted their time with leads that never had the intention to do something because of the fact that, well, surprise, surprise, they don't have the need or the initial budget in place. Then some of the teams layer their custom qualification criteria, which I still think it's very much missing. Then that was followed by a 4-step sequence on LinkedIn and email. People are also invited to particular events, right? So that's how that system managed to get teams out of the digital space towards being in a room with them in order to establish further authority. And in the meantime, while you initially run this 4-step sequence, your team, your marketing team will generate content and will run thought leadership ads towards those particular accounts. Why thought leadership ads? Well, because of the fact that everyone is you're becoming way more credible whenever there is particular people talking about your company rather than you talking about it yourself. So for instance, if you see, I don't know, Jordan Crawford talking about 2X, you're 10 times more likely to believe that. So if you're a smart marketing leader, you promote Jordan's post to that audience in order to generate this. And the funny thing is that even with the old system in place that generated a crazy amount of pipeline by building authority of the market, still 90% of go-to-market teams that I'm talking to right now don't do that. Like they don't even do the thought leadership ads accordingly. There is just still so much silo in place, which kills the whole predictability engine. And this is quite predictable, right? Like you get the leads, the people that engage with your ads are getting ready to buy, then you initially check the website, etc., etc. But it's actually not so how can I say this? This is getting also less effective because of the fact that the hand raisers are less and less, and we see that this is why the whole signal movement all of the sudden exploded after November, if I'm very honest, because and I do know that because we start building Signalbase in November, and you can see the drastic increase in adoption of Clay and everything else. Now, which part of your process can be actually repeatable? Now, that's an interesting question to have. Well, it's definitely your account discovery once you land the channel that all of these people are going to, right? Your offer can become very repeatable because it's very true that most of the time teams will still test different offers until they manage to click what's actually something that resonates with their ICP. And I'm saying this as someone that also does that. So once you nail the offer, it gets very repeatable. Then your content flows are becoming also quite repeatable, especially now with Cloud Code. Once you know your content pillars and the problems that you're trying to solve, writing good content gets 10 times easier. By the way, I do have a dedicated system that I can show in here for the people that wants to know how to boost their own content engine to support their outreach. But I'll just drop this for a second. Your paid ad loops can be quite repeatable, activation flows, etc., etc. But most importantly, nothing can beat the personal touch. And I'm saying this because I wouldn't be able to be so close with Frank if I haven't met him over lunch, right? So that's very important for you to understand. Like agents are agents, but until you actually showcase yourself in front of the person, then your credibility is just like everyone else in the room. So make sure to go out there and actually say hi to the person on the other side, because then that indicates to them, oh shit, they're serious. They're more than just face on LinkedIn like everyone else. Now, we showcased, by the way, tell me if I'm going too fast. I'm just trying to crunch absolutely everything. Okay, good. This is how we will layer signals on top of this. So the system that we just explained with sourcing the accounts and absolutely everything else, it's still the same. The process of following up is still the same. The major difference is how you read that these accounts move within the life cycle stages that they're in, right? And because there are so many signals right now, we have social listening, we have CRM signals, and all of these, when I take a step back over the landscape, I came to discover that there are three categories of signals, right? You have the prospecting ones, you have the nurturing ones in the middle, and then you have the post-sales ones, which is more for activation, retention, and expansion that teams also need to take care of. But the most interesting part is like once you come from the signal-based prospecting layer to the post-sales layer, you cannot go back. And this helps you to prevent your SDRs from burning themselves towards spreading their attention way too thin, because nowadays we need to talk about efficiency of go-to-market engines, right? And the best way to do that is like this. You start with a so-called signal-based prospecting, which normally you do by getting your accounts in a pool, then looking for signals in Clay. But let's say that you can actually skip this whole stage with signal-based or another signal-based prospecting tool, right? By going after companies that are fitting your exact ICP, but only they have the initial evergreen signal, which is an indication for further change or further budgets in place on which you can layer then your custom qualification criteria in order to know that the probability of you to succeed by jumping on a call with them gets 10 times higher. So once you initially build your signal-based list and you push that custom qualification criteria in, the first layer of the outbound should start. You knock on the door, right? And then based on that one, what you simply do is try to see if your message resonates, if your offer resonates with those guys, right? If it's at the right place at the right time, the probability for them to, let's say, have a chat with you is very high. But because of the fact that the whole buyer journey now is 10 times more complex, you probably won't close a deal straight up. Like 80% of the time it doesn't work like this. You need to nurture, you need to educate, you need to handhold, like those guys go on vacations, etc., etc. So for that reason, you do have the secondary layer. And here you can use all of the tools like Thrigify, etc., etc., to monitor initially what are they doing whenever they're not talking to you, so you can absorb the whole context around them. Remember, like, context is your best friend when you do go to market, not only as doing the outreach, but also to absolutely all of your efforts. And in here, you can also count as a signal the engagement on your ads. And I'll talk about it in a second, how to engineer your own loops. And lastly, of course, you have the CRM signals. So if someone, let's say, sign up for your product, if you're a POG, and they invite someone, well, that's a clear indication that they want to expand within your profile. And the very important thing here is that I've been hearing quite a lot of people claiming that funding in M&A, in job changes, in hiring is quite useful nowadays. Well, sorry, it's quite useless. Initially, that's not true. It's useless when it comes to you knocking on the door directly based on that signal, but it's 10 times more valuable for you to use it as a context tooling, right? This is the first batch of context that you need because of the fact that those accounts already have budget in place. Cool, we can start looking for more signals in order to really stand out with our message and personalize further. A tip from Ilya, by the way, from HeyReach: if you do hyper relevance, you're going to close 10 times more deals than if you do hyper personalization on a simple context. Because someone's grandmother having a birthday should never be your priority, right? Like, it is what it is. And further, to sharpen your signal-based engine, there are a few different types of signals. You have urgent signals, you have evergreen signals, and you have the custom signals, right? So a lot of marketing teams nowadays are missing on the urgent signals. And it's normally a content methodology for you to be able to hijack the momentum, but this can actually be quite good for every part of your go-to-market team. So it's not needed for me to say that I made a post around particular pricing changes, right? So in that case, we generated quite some hype. We booked 10 demos based on this. So definitely, and 10 high ACV demos. So try to always have room within your content calendars and go-to-market strategy for those things, because whenever they happen, you really, really need to jump on them. If not, you miss on a lot of market share opportunities. Then you do have the evergreen signals, and those are things such as, okay, someone gets a certification that is relevant to my product, right? Or they're using an integration partner, or they're jumping on a webinar with someone. Shout out to the company Rich Folks. etc., etc., right? So this is something that you need to run pretty much 24/7, while the rest of the signals that you see on left and right, which is the custom signal and the urgent signal, only occurs when the market is ready. Okay, lastly, about the signal on the right. This is the head of product of Lemnis, and I initially know that they have the money, right? It's not a secret, they've been hiring and expanding the product, whatnot. All of a sudden, there is this post that just dropped in with access to their product roadmap. That's my custom signal because of the fact that they want to build signals, right? This is just purely on my side, the problem that I'm trying to solve for companies. So it's very important for you to be able to identify your own custom signal, and then based on that one, just keep on hammering on it and design a repeatable engine around this. So you know this thing becomes repeatable whenever you identify your core offering, right? And you know your ICP. So this is the reason why I wanted to start with this particular thing in place. I have this. You probably guys are quite better than me in copywriting when it comes to lead gen and whatnot. All I need to say is that for me, what works extremely well is the fact that I need to loop social proof. I always loop in a few familiar names. My value-driven offer always end up with a question, and I always use something like, is this week a bad time to jump on a call? Because people are ultimately always going to say no, and they're trying to protect themselves even if they really need you, because it's 10 times easier to say no. So when you turn it into their own head, like, holy cow, okay, I cannot say no to this, there you go, that's your way to go. And because everyone here runs Outbound, I wanted to also share a few tactics that works incredibly well for me when it comes to the nurturing. I have time, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. A few tactics that work for me during the whole four-step sequence, knocking on the door while marketing does its thing, right? Number one, I use memes. Memes is pattern interruption strategy, and it works extremely well. People have been ignoring me. Normally, this is my fourth step. This is where my sequence finishes right after this, and everyone cracks jokes about it in the end. They say, "Oh wow, this is super interesting. Actually, this might be relevant for us, etc., etc." So do use your initial memes, and especially if you've been sending 19 product updates as follow-ups, because those people had interest, but it's only normal for them to drop at some point of the journey, right? Like, things happen within organizations as fires needs to be put down. So yeah, keep on following, but also try to have a different way of how to approach that, because everyone can read these chunks, but not everyone is going to get into their DMs visuals. And I saw today someone writing love poems. I don't know if that works, but memes do. So use memes. This is number one. Number two, always try to pull people outside of the room, because that's your best chance to understand a little bit more about their context while boosting your own credibility, right? Like, we run an event for GTM executives, and we had someone from ChartMogul, which, if you guys don't know, it's a massive company. Initially, that person came in, we had a nice chat, I understood the entire sales process. It wasn't really a fit at that time, but now at least they know me, right? So whenever time comes, because go-to-market is a long-term game rather than just spraying emails and hoping for convert, I know that they're going to know about me because they've been to my event. Two more tactics. Whenever you have the urgent signal, if you remember, I send one message to someone who is a clay alternative, which goes pretty damn into their pain point. Like, you need to be cheeky with those stuff because this thing really converts. And as I mentioned, like, that really book calls. And lastly, this is something that I haven't seen many people doing, but if you have a very relevant post, just send the post and be like, hey, this can be interesting for you. Bam. You share it. If there is a clear value for them, then you see the response. Let's hop on a call. So there are just a few things that work for me. Also, go on WhatsApp. I know it's very personal, at least for me it was before becoming CEO of Signalbase, but according to Frank, you get 80% closing rate if someone is on WhatsApp. So don't forget about the WhatsApp. Like always pull people. And I actually see personally higher response rates too, because they can ignore your email, they can ignore your LinkedIn message, but probably they won't ignore your WhatsApp, especially because you can call them, right? So the shots are there. There is nothing that they can do. And this is more going back to the marketing side of how to install your system. I know it's super random. I have a towel on my head. It's a content piece that we recorded for the conference that we run, as I mentioned last year, for the 200 go-to-market executives. And this particular marketing loop or growth loop followed like this. In June, we had only 30 ticket sales for the event, right? And I've been already shooting my entire time. So we burned absolutely all of the accounts in the Netherlands. At some point, I'm like, okay, what are we doing, right? Like people are calling us spammers. We need to find a way how to activate those guys correctly. And based on that one, I said, okay, no more written text. Let's do funny videos. Those funny videos actually brought us a few tickets. And based on the ticket sales, I thought, okay, now we have people coming to the event. The best thing that we can do, and every go-to-market executive can do, is to let others promote them. So we designed those frames that are dedicated towards absolutely everyone. And I don't know if you guys been ever to SASIS, but it's a massive conference that took place in Europe. So I used their founder to build a social proof. Once this was established, what I did is that I run thought leadership ads. So remember, it's the same repeatable growth engine that I mentioned a few slides in. I started running thought leadership ads towards all the accounts that I wanted and go for relevancy on the engagement itself. Within the LinkedIn ads, maybe many of you don't run LinkedIn ads, but if you're consolidating with someone and their marketing team as someone who is outside of their organization, I would highly recommend you to source information from there if they have budget. And then based on that one, you can really quickly understand who saw that particular ad and shoot them a message. In that case, what I did is that once if they ignore me, but they already connected with me, and I see that they engage on another ad or post from someone who jump in, I'll send them instantly message, 4 seconds, not less. I send them a message, hey, okay, now I know that you know this person who is coming, are you coming? And if you do that 3 times, like, come on, everyone is coming, you'll most likely join that event too. So this is a clear example how sales and marketing can work together in order to build a repeatable growth engine. And just like that, I happened to fill up the room with 200 go-to-market executives, which was a very hard thing to do for someone who is pulling up a conference for the first time ever. Cool. A lot of things. I'll just go over, I think I have a few last slides. But these are some of the mistakes that I feel like we need to keep in mind whenever designing those. Again, like not respecting the buyer journey. So if someone, for instance, if they like your comment, or if they comment under your post, or I don't know, they just like your profile, that doesn't mean that they're ready to buy. And if you just go for the social signal without mapping the whole context around that company, you're missing out a lot of context that will make your outreach relevant, right? So map out your entire context. Don't neglect your evergreen signals because of the fact that they can help you to shape your list for who is ready or who is about to be ready to buy. Don't put the same weight on the same signals, like define your custom signals. And also make sure to know how fresh is that particular signal in place due to relevance. And again, optimize for relevance, not for personalization. Honestly, that was the end of the presentation. I do have 2 examples of how to do signal-based prospecting within Cloud Code and Victor itself. By the way, shout out to the men in the public who built that. So if we have the time, we can talk about these, or we can talk about other questions that might occur during the presentation. Sorry if it was too long.
No, I thought that was perfect. And I think it would be helpful if you just quickly went over like what the what the actionable next steps for the people on the call might be, or the people watching this, because there was a lot of helpful information,
Yeah.
but I feel like it might be overwhelming for some people that can't necessarily do all of this.
Yeah.
What is the first thing they should do after this call?
Structure your signals and see actually if you're getting the right people in your pipeline. Because if you're still spraying and praying rather than optimizing for context, then you're probably lost within the results that you're even trying to deliver for your clients, right? Like try to really structure, okay, am I getting the right accounts in from the top, or I'm just sourcing them because they engage with particular posts? Cool. If they're sourcing with a particular post, what is the full context behind them? Because that will enable you to actually understand better the how long is going to be the sales cycle and how big is their pain right now. Like I think that's pretty much everything. How you do the sequence and maybe how you defeat silos is an entire separate session that needs to be done. But yeah, I would say that's pretty much it. Like remember this, guys.
Okay, fantastic. And then earlier on, you mentioned keeping the context to yourself for a lot of signals. And I love that because that's something that I'm always telling people as well on calls. I was on a call with they were like a website company. They build websites for these Series A, Series B companies. And they were running campaigns where they were reaching out to everyone who was hiring for a web developer. They were saying, I noticed you're hiring for a web developer, and this is what we do. But like the email is still going to work just as good if you just remove that bulk. If you're reaching out to people who need your service and you just engage with them when they need your service, it's going to work just as good, if not better, because then you don't need to handle that objection that you've just introduced, which is, I'm telling you this information that I scraped about you. And then you introduce all of these other questions. Where did you get this? Why should I care? And yada, yada, yada. But do you think
So
there's ever a reason to include that context? Like, for example, if you need to educate them about their own situation, like if they're in a very large organization or whatnot.
mm, good. I'll definitely say yes if you can actually cut their need. So, example for that one, if you're selling sales tech, let's say, let's say LinkedIn automation software, right? And you need
Hmm.
someone to run outbound for you, and you're hiring 10 SDRs. Well, if your two can cut the need for those 10 SDRs, you're spot on because they don't need to burn budget. So this is a great way to say like, hey, you're actually trying to you're actually trying to hire 10 people, but I can save you probably the money with this, and we did that for another company, and I've been in your position, so I don't want you to burn those money, right? So
Mm.
that's how I would use it. But for the yeah, for the fund, most of the time I do refer this to the funding signal because previously people said, "Oh yeah, congratulations on your funding." Yeah, man, no shit. It's like I have eggs in the fridge. It's absolutely the
Yeah.
same thing. So why should I care about my eggs in the fridge? You need to paint me the whole picture around. Okay, I have eggs in the fridge. I can make high protein meal to reach my health goals, for instance. So
Okay.
try
So
to
like,
yeah.
correct me if I'm wrong, but basically only reference it if referencing it actually makes what you offer clearer in the email, as opposed to
Correct.
just referencing it to justify you sending the email.
Yeah. Totally.
That makes sense. Um, yeah, they're all the questions I have. I'm ready to see these workflows. Does anybody else have any questions?
No, mine was around the context as well. So yeah, good to know. Thanks.
Fantastic.
We
I think we can
can
jump into the workflows if you're open to it, Georgie.
Yeah, Francesco, do you want to showcase it because you actually built this one?
Sure. And before we do, I also want to kind of emphasize the importance of context when you're using these signals. If you're just referencing it and it's for the sake of reference, like Ron, like you mentioned, it's just going to raise more questions. And it's like, why are you bringing that up? Where did you get that information? And it just creates resistance that doesn't need to be there at all. But
Yeah.
let's take two signals within context and combine them just as an example. There's a merger or acquisition, right? You've got M&A activity going on. So what's happening here is two companies are going to be coming together, and in theory, their business systems are going to need to integrate to some extent or another, or at the very least, their data is going to need to integrate to some extent or another. So that's number one. Number two, they might be hiring a CRM administrator, somebody related to HubSpot. They might be hiring data governance people. They might be hiring data stewards. And so with these two indicators combined, you can tell, okay, their business systems and their data are going to be kind of under construction. They're going to be operated on. So now you can tell, all right, with that in mind, and this is very personal to me because this is exactly what I would do. I would reach out in that situation and say, as you're going into this merger, as you're going into these efforts for integrating your data, your CRM, it's great that you are standing up this team for the long-term health and value of your systems and data. But this one time like situation that you find yourself in, this is a huge lift for a new team to take on. And probably what you would like is for somebody to come in who's done this in a concerted way in these kind of like critical junctures and done this at scale, these integrations of data and these integrations of business systems and helped make those mappings so that you can get started on the right foot. Of course, the copy is going to be much more clean than that, but that is the idea that you can come in there with full context combined with two kind of high these signals that have heavy significance. Um, any feedback on that before I jump on?
No, I don't have any.
All right. Georgie, do you want me to take the screen and kind of like high level walk through this?
Yeah, I think we either way don't have that much time. So just if you can really
Okay.
quickly walk people around it.
Yeah. How much time do you have? I'm showing 16 minutes on the meeting.
Yeah,
Do you want me to take
let's.
like 3 minutes on this?
Yeah, 5 even is fine. No worries.
Okay, perfect. Oh, I see what happened. Okay.
Hey, there we go.
All right. You're seeing my Slack.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So that was Victor, and I'm not going to stay there too long. But Victor is an AI agent that lives in Slack and connects to just about anything. I personally think of it as like uh, almost OpenClaw that's already like SOC 2 compliant, and so I feel a lot safer playing with that.
Mhm.
But what's the idea here? I'm in my process mapping environment, and here I have Signalbase on the left, right? We want to start with our signal collection. And something I put together with Victor was I said, okay, here's my Signalbase API. Here is my Notion connection. And I want you to go into my Notion and pull context for the positioning of this offer that I'm going to be delivering to this company or to these companies that I'm selling to. And the context there is the service product that I have around go to market for pharmaceutical companies. So one of the signals is that, again, right, they're going through a merger, they're going through an acquisition, there is a new product that is being either developed or it has been developed, and now the parent company is interested in activating that and going to market with that new product. So I'm pulling that signal using Signalbase, um, and I'm getting involved in there a little bit. I didn't add a human in the loop element for this, but I could. So Victor now is pulling Notion context for that. And then what you would expect, right? So contact discovery, we're going to find the target contacts at the parent company, at the acquired company, or at both if it's a merger, and we're going to qualify them there. And you could use, whatever your orchestration or data acquisition kind of environment is for that. So you find contact list, you enrich it with your email and your LinkedIn data. A human in the loop, right, will we'll take this chance to review and qualify that contact list. And then you have your campaign execution. In this example I set up here, we're going to go with LinkedIn as our primary outreach platform, and we're going to set up a campaign to draft and review before launching. So Victor, together with HeyReach, is going to kind of create this campaign. Now, if LinkedIn is not available or we choose through some programmatic method to go via email, we're going to use Twain here instead to create and draft these emails using our voice, using our context, so on and so forth. But where does all of this start? If you don't come in with the right signal at the right time, I want to emphasize what happened here was Gilead just on February, I believe, 26th, announced their acquisition of Arcelex, and that was a $7.6 billion acquisition. There is a lot of opportunity here. There is a big shakeup here, but that can't happen you can't just address that in a silo. You have to come at that with the context of here is why what I'm talking about is important to you.
Sharing how it looks like in Slack, because I feel like then people can get a little bit of overview of how it actually looks
Yeah.
rather than being systematic.
Let me switch over to Slack.
And this is valuable, guys. Are you enjoying it? Wesley, Siobhan, Manu?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's
Okay,
very
class.
interesting. Yeah.
Good.
I have a question about the signal and the context. When you're saying at a mass level or a lot of level, you might make some mistakes. How do you handle if someone comes back and say, "Oh, you messed up"? Just ignore or
Try
move on to
to,
the next one?
yeah, can you give a little bit deeper example? Like
So,
when you,
like when you were saying signal, so I go on Sales Navigator and I check their accounts, and sometimes the database in Sales Navigator is wrong, and you send these like mails on to them, and they say, "Oh, this is not something that is actually us." So, how do you
yeah,
handle it?
I do need to mention that like there are like having mistakes within your go-to-market strategy is only like normal as it may sound, and I'm saying this as someone who gets the data from multiple sources including social media and like all of these things, and we receive a lot of questions like that. If something like this happens, that means that just the LinkedIn profile wasn't really updated and there is nothing that you can do. I mean, that's the only source that of information that you'd have gotten, right? And in that case, what you need to do is, and this is very much sales skill, hey, okay, I fucked up. How can I make this valuable still again for the initial person? And I had, because for our go-to-market signal, go-to-market engine, I don't mind, by the way, going into it within the last minutes, but we have evergreen campaigns, and those evergreen campaigns sometimes because of LinkedIn, and that's why I mentioned like be very frugal and very careful with whenever you source leads from the LinkedIn enough, because of the fact that sometimes it can pull older company data, and then what is up to you is just to turn it around. It's a sales skill. Sadly, I don't have any other.
Okay. Yeah, no, so it happens.
It always happens, right? Like this is something that every go-to-market leader did at least once in their life. Like if you fuck up, okay, nice. Like worst case scenario is you get posted on LinkedIn and then someone forgets about you in 3 days time. So it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. Okay.
I think the fact that they have come back to you is a great sign. You know, that's a in to starting some kind of dialogue. So yeah, I mean, I totally agree with what you say, Georgie.
Yeah, very good. Hey,
Okay. So what's this, Francesco?
All right. Once you have the connection set up here, I connected Victor to Signalbase again with the API key and to my Notion. So there's a high urgency signal again related to this service product that I provide. And so I set this one up for a live demo here. I gave it a set of parameters and it came back to me and said, okay, here's what I'm going to do. It told me it was going to take 20 to 30 minutes to pull these signals and then cross-reference job change signals within those same companies. So with the diagram that I showed earlier, I had that do it in Clay, but for this one, I used even job change signals within the M&A activity. And so it's like, okay, who's staying, who is getting promoted, who's moving up, so on and so forth, and finding these directors, these VPs who want to find who are going to be operating on this go-to-market motion, the people who are going to be interested in activating this, and then researching them. Here I had Victor do it, but again, you want to bring in your data orchestrator, your data acquisition platform, whatever that may be, and get relevant and current information about them, and then drafting personalized outreach for each of them. I had to commit these records back to my leads database in Notion, but again, if you want to scale this up, you're going to bring this back into your CRM. So after 10 minutes, it came back with top pharma M&A targets. It came back with people who work there. And this was all sourced from Signalbase.
Okay.
And then it pushed those records into my Notion environment. So this was an initial play that I created so I could start testing out, all right, how do I push this to next step would be building this into HeyReach, into Twain, into my CRM, so on and so forth. But here's how it did that. And there's the Gilead deal that I mentioned right there.
sick. I have to be honest, like this is one of the first workflows of our users when I see like agent talking to agent, and this helped me to shape, by the way, the future of the company too. I won't lie. Like it's such an eye opener to see what is possible and initially like how do teams are going to leverage this more and more. And I have this conversation with a few other founders like, hey guys, do you think the interface is going to die? So I'm curious also what you guys think about this. Is interface going to die for some of these?
Well, it depends who you're selling to and the sophistication of the market you're selling to. Like the market, we're just in a bit of a bubble, I think. The market is going to adapt. The entire market is going to adapt, but it's going to adapt a lot slower than we think. Like people are still sending emails from their primary domain. How long has that not been standard practice?
Yeah.
You know, an interface is always going to need to be important, even just from a point of actually signing up to your platform and getting a handle for what you're actually doing on it. But then when you're building like large scale, whatever projects, I think it'll probably be API first. At least that's how I use a lot of these tools. Um, but I think one big mistake a lot of platforms do is if it, especially in this bubble, is they look at how they use their own platform and try and imagine all of their market using it the same way. But you really just need to put yourself in the shoes of your actual target market, not just how it's best used. Not saying that that's what you're doing, but I'd just be mindful of that.
No.
Yeah.
It's fair.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, I think that was a sick call. Does anyone have any questions for Georgie before we wrap it up? Or is there anything else you want to add, Georgie? A quick
Maybe
Signalbase plug.
No. I mean, people can find it like we just launched on Rapid API and Amplify too, so you guys can test it even without having proper subscription in place. But what I wanted to emphasize is don't rush into Signal-based outbound for your team, for your clients, if you haven't really cracked the normal outbound. Like the normal marketing, the normal go-to-market. Like, don't overcomplicate everything. Like, build your own proper foundation. And if I have to rebuild, let's say someone gets me as a chief marketing or chief growth officer, I'm first thing first nailing down the messaging, the positioning, the right offer, who are we talking to, and okay, based on that one, on the traditional quote unquote way, even without, by the way, any automations. I'm very manual with those stuff because I do want to extract every piece of information before building a system around it. Like, do this, then go for signal-based outbound and scale the heck out of it whenever you know it's working. That's it.
And that's how it's done. Okay, cool.
Fantastic.
I'll let you guys go. Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday. Thanks, everybody.
Great. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank
Really
you for
good.
this.
Yes.
Thanks, Georgie.
No worries. Pleasure.
Bye bye, boys.